I had a baseball bat, and I'm mad. I'm looking for this guy, and the lady in the neighborhood said, "Hey, come here, baby." I'm like, all right, I came. Like, I loved your book. It changed my life. And she don't know me, my mother, and in that moment, she touched me. Because again, we all find ourselves in those places when we're about to do something stupid. That's the process of being human. And God intervenes when we least expect it. And so again, I love when people buy my book. It's a business, but it means more when you read my book. Because that's the purpose of writing it. It's telling the stories of oppression, a story of conflict, but it's also solutions in there. And that's one of the problems that we have, that we're not reading anymore. We're not a reading community anymore. We don't study no more. When you look at the black experience of grandmothers and grandfathers that couldn't read and write but raised kids to graduate from high school and college, that's phenomenal. When you think in the context of the racial disparity, the racial hostility that they was going through, but they had a standard. And like me and my mother, we had argued one time. My son was going to Malcolm X Academy, and I was like, man, you got to read Down the Garden of Malcolm X. If you're going to go there, you need to know who this man is. My mother said, well, that book is too thick. I'm like, man, it's too thick. This is how we handicap ourselves. Like we talking about big words. There's no such thing as a big word. It's a word. But again, we limit ourselves mentally because of our low expectations that we have. And so that's one of the devastating things that we have done internally, have lowered our standards. And so again, when you read my book, it's not only the story of my life, but it also talks about all the books I read. Like when I first put my book out, it had a lot of errors and typos, right? And this one lady, she emailed me, like, I don't even like reading books with typo. It disgusts me, I throw it away. But she's like, your book was so captivating, I kept reading. It just kept me going. And she talked about when I talk about how our ancestors were forced into slavery, and how I broke that down in such a simplistic way. She's like, I had never read it like that. And so being able to digest our history in a very simplistic way to take it to another level. Because again, without knowledge itself, there cannot be a Yusef Shakur. I still will be a monster in my community.
This one we gotta kind of get to the nuts and bolts. Anybody knows Yusef knows that he is not shrinking violent. If there's a critique of the politics of this city, you're one of the few true voices that will speak out. The city is 80% African American majority, one of the most oppressed cities in the United States of America. From a self-determination standpoint, what is it that we need to do as a community to really empower people and bring truth to power?
That's a loaded question. It's there. It's in the books. I think, and I know, we have to have more honest conversations. We have to get through this self-defeating mindset that we have. We have to understand what the complexity of the society that we live in. We don't have conversations about race no more. We as black people, we say racism doesn't exist quicker than a white person says. We're quick to say we're all human without looking at what's going on. When I was talking to a bunch of teachers Saturday in Rochester, and I told them the most important thing that you can do as a teacher is have transparent education, transparent learning. If you are a teacher and you're not talking about racism in your class, then you're doing a disservice to your students. You're not preparing. The reality is we have a city that's 80% black and elected a white mayor. If you don't, as a black person, if you don't find something wrong with that, then that's disturbing. It's disturbing in the sense of the dynamics. Like I was joking with some folks, like I'm about to move to Bologna and run for city council. That's what we do, right? We laugh, because that sounds ridiculous. But we sat here and allowed that to happen. So what it does, it tells us we've lost our way and understanding who we are and the confidence of being to elect folks that look like us to serve us. And I think that's where we've gotten away from understanding what service is about. We have too many individuals who working on behalf of themselves. You know, how can you say you serve a community? You ain't even been in that community. You ain't even talk to people in that community. You don't know what's going on in that community. So it's easy to make a decision supporting Henry Ford Hospital that's buying up all the property in that neighborhood, and that allows it to sit and look like a war zone area. And people are forcing to live out. But then the media comes in and say this is what it looks like, but don't tell the truth. Why? Exactly. You know, Henry Ford owns all this property. Or when you can give part of downtown to one man, Mike Illich, $1, but I can't even get the private next to me for $10. I mean, again, we've all played Monopoly. Now, I've never comprehended Monopoly until now in my adulthood, but I see two white men that own the majority of all the property downtown. So when you talk about Park Place, and you find yourself on Park Place, you find you out of place.
So it's really about self-determination. Self-determination. Where do we lose our ability to govern ourselves? Where do we lose our confidence in ourselves? From your perspective, Yusef, there's a lot of black leadership, but it appears to have failed. Is that an accurate assessment?
We've been misguided, and being misguided, we haven't. Like, the end goal was not just about electing electoral policy. Electoral policy was part of a process. And understanding when we elected Coleman Young, it was a reflection of the spirituality of the racial dynamic that existed in the society. And I think, you know, with all the great things Coleman had done, did he have a strong cabinet around him? And that's part of the tradition of African people. You know, they always look at some of the critique of Shaka Zulu. Did he have a strong African village around him to help govern him where he didn't lose his mind? So, you know, we go for farming and et cetera. And I think that's where we think, okay, we've elected Obama, but we're talking about a system that's systematically built in the destruction of our community. It's not set up to allow us to do anything. You know, we don't even have an out of theater anymore. I mean, and how far-fetched that sounds, as a young boy, I could ride my bike and go there. But you have to understand the dynamics of our community. But also being black was an expression of self-determination. And so we traded our self-determination in for a pair of shoes, for a new car, for a house. And so this individual's mindset has thrusted in where we lost our way in the ties of being a community. So we have to really get back to the nitty-gritty, understanding like the sum is greater than the individual.
Man, that's powerful. Your most recent book, talk to us about your motivation, some of the things in it that the reader can expect to get out of it. What's your heart relative to your most recent book?
Redemptive, so the Yusef Bunchy Shakur Reader is actually my first book and my second book. So over the years, I've been great at producing a lot of product, and so a lot of folks tend to want to break my life into different parts. The early part, the gang, family, prison, and the second book is post-prison, family. So now you have the whole complete story, the whole package. And I really want to allude to, like, everybody's talking about mass incarceration. We need to end mass incarceration, or prisoner pipeline. And I really want to challenge us to not just get caught up in slogans. Like, though they sound good, but when you pull the layers off that, what does mass incarceration look like? It looks like my mother who's hurting because she can't go see her son. You know, my mother had declared, like, I'm not coming to see you. It's just too painful. And so, but also in that process, when I'm going up in front of the parole board and I'm denied a parole 5 times, and she's saying, baby, what's going on? Why won't they let you out? That's the face of mass incarceration that we have to identify. And also, if we end mass incarceration but don't end black oppression, what have we to solve? Because there's so many dynamics to mass incarceration. You know, how many of you know most of these prisons that's built in these rural areas was swampland. It created revenue for those white communities, but off the expense of black people. You know, prison has nothing but, has always been a tool. Last month I had the opportunity to go visit Eddie Conway. Eddie Conway is a former member of the Black Panther Party who was falsely accused of killing an officer in Baltimore. He's been in prison 45 years. I will be 41 this Saturday coming up. He's been in prison as long as I've been living. He was still vibrant. He was still engaged. And we have multiple Nelson Mandelas right here in the United States of America. And then the trickle-down effect of it, too, inside of prison, they started something what's called the STG, Security Threat Group. And they say that we're targeting the so-called gang members. But if you go down and dig, they were actually targeting men like my father, who took up the responsibility to educate guys like me and other guys to make sure we're not sending predators back home. Now, I went to the hole one time in prison because I was trying to take a book into the child hall to read on my lunch break. It put me in a hole for that.
Trying to read.
Yeah, trying to read. I mean, again, these are some of the dynamics that we don't talk about. You know, I love what Michelle Alexander has been able to do with the new book, the new Jim Crow. But that's from an academic standpoint. When are we going to talk?
She said Chiefs were a problem. Black Chiefs were a problem. So I got to talk to her. All of us were the problem.
Yeah. I mean, and again, we have to stop allowing ourselves to be divided. Every piece in our community is necessary. Those of us who are wealthy, those of us who are unwealthy. And I think we have to have that conversation of how do we move forward. Because I've seen and I've talked to a lot of successful blacks who feel ashamed, who feel left out because they ain't from the hood. They ain't got the badge that I went to, penitentiary and et cetera. Because I can go to a college campus and the kids, they're going to respect me. They're going to give me love. And I have to put it in perspective like, man, I respect and love you all guys more because you're doing something I wish I had the opportunity to do. And so don't get it twisted. And we need more sound people. Again, the focus may be on me, but the focus for me is on all of us. I'm part of the group. I'm not separate from the group. I've created a brand. I've created a persona to generate some things, but that doesn't motivate me. What motivates me is change in our community and create sustainable change.
You brought up an interesting point because you mentioned there are some blacks that have not experienced your experience. Are we moving more away from race and more to a class? Is it a class issue? Is it a race issue? Is it a little bit of both? Because, this is my daughter, I've raised her. She's never been exposed to stuff I was exposed to. So is it now becoming a class thing as much as it is race? There's some rich blacks that don't associate with brothers in the hood as much as there are whites that don't associate with brothers in the hood.
I mean, it's always a race issue. Anybody thinking that they lie to themselves. But in particular, within the black community, it's definitely a class issue. It's always been a class issue. And I think, again, a lot of that comes from the fact that we're allowing ourselves to simulate within a large society. Again, look at yourself. For the guy in the hood, man, he's dressing white, he's looking white. That's just being a human being. Even for myself, I don't normally wear stuff like this. I don't normally wear a t-shirt and some blue jeans.
I usually have on shoes and tees, but I'm trying to dress up.
But that's part of that stereotype that we have. And again, we have to stop looking at each other through the eyes of stereotype and looking at the value of who we are. Because you got a degree from Michigan State University should make you less or no more than who you are. And being black is part of that commitment of helping. The guy who owned the Miami Dolphins donated $200 million or something or whatever to the University of Michigan. He felt an obligation, a commitment to sustain that institution. He don't visit the university that often, but he feels love there. Where do those of us who've been successful in our community contribute to the same thing? Because again, I've been told like you should be a lawyer, you should be a doctor when I was growing up. I never talked with a lawyer until he was helping me go to prison. I never talked with a judge until he was sentenced me to prison. I never talked with a doctor until he was sewing me up and I got shot. But when we look in white communities, they have a lunch with these people. They have them in their community every day. So and it comes down to W. Du Bois when he talked about the talented temple. So all the talented temple is moving out of our neighborhood. Why wouldn't we think, or why wouldn't our neighborhoods be able to usher in something positive? Because those are part of the anchor within our community. That's part of that standard, and it's part of that balance. Because again, if I'm coming out and all I see is gangsters on this corner and gangsters on that corner, why would you think I'm going to be a gangster? I have nothing to compare it to.
So with that being said, Yusef, then how can we expose our kids to things that they haven't been exposed to? And they give them the balance. Because we don't want to lose our culture either. I mean, our culture shapes this world. Everything we do, everybody else want to do. And they're making money off of it, and everybody's making money off of it except us. So how do we change that dynamic?
Self-determination. Self-determination. Too many of us in our community are living and waiting on a handout, living off of grants. And I'm not opposed to a grant. I'm not opposed to someone giving us anything. But if you're not willing to give towards your own, then how can you expect sustainability? Like we all had worked for your grandma and your granddaddy when you was younger and you worked your tail off, and when you got that 50 cents, you just spent it a little different. You didn't go run and go spend it as fast as mama gave you that dollar, because it just means something different. And that has an impact in our community in a way that we haven't seen, where the backpacks we give, we personally, we challenge folks to buy that. So again, just if everybody in this room, we commit to $5 every 2 weeks, and and let that stack up, we can go buy some lawnmowers and pay some young boys in our community to cut the grass. So as they cutting the grass and their friend throwing dirt on it or some trash, like, man, what you doing? This is my job. You making my job work. So we're teaching them how to take pride in their community. And the reality is there's some guys in our community that's locked out of the workforce, but have skill sets. So again, we create a money pot within our community. We can teach these guys or hire these guys to go paint, drywall. But in hiring them, they have to understand that you have to be a quality person. Because if I don't trust you, I can't let you in my house. And so again, that's how we change that dynamic, and where we're investing in each other. Again, some of us who went off to college, on your free labor time, on the weekend, bring those skill sets into your community. Sharing that information. I mean, as the Bible says, people perish because of lack of knowledge. We see that more than anything in the black community. The more we know, the greater we can become and do.
Well, it's good you mentioned self-determination, because it starts right here. We see it in Bob's Plastic Cakes. So patronizing our own businesses and keeping the money in the community and recycling the money in our own community is huge.
And I would challenge ourselves too, because we get caught up in that black supporting black businesses, but black businesses do not support black communities. We have to have a mandate that black businesses support black communities. Not just because you're black, and too many individuals have exploited that. And so we have to be critical in that capacity. For us, like when we ran the Urban Network, people saw firsthand. When you bought a book or you bought a hamburger, that money went towards the People Survival Program, the food that we gave away for free on the Sundays. That money went towards the computers. That money went towards the backpack that we gave away in the summer. So they're investing in their own. So the money is not just leaving out. So it's about building trustworthy relationships. And I think that's one of the greatest challenge that we have, that we don't trust each other. And we don't have no trust, there's no love.
Going on that trust issue, there seems to be a lack of moral fiber in our communities. How do we get back to that? Where, we respect each other. There used to be a time where you walk past the church, a brother would take his hat off. You would cuss in front of the church, you would drink in front of the church. We don't respect institutions, we don't respect each other. How do we start to generate that? How do we get that internal change?
Actually, Dennis had took me out dinner 2 months ago, and we was having a conversation, kind of that same, and I was like, man, we got to institute some new core values in our community. And I remember one of the core values that we instituted in my household started with my grandma. I couldn't say yeah or no. I remember that. And if you said yeah or no, you got smacked in the mouth. And even though I lost my way, here I am 40 years old, and I catch myself when I say yeah, and I correct myself, because I remember when my grandma was talking, to say yes. And that's part of that expectation. That's part of that respect for each other. When I lost respect for my community, it was easy to rob you. And again, we have to have that within ourselves, and that competing thing that we have. I remember, this white guy, he was cool, and he had a bunch of black people together. And we're not black folks acting around white people. We get to try to show off and compete in front of them. And one of them was like, so how do we know that you really changed? Excuse me, then if I might say this. Sorry. I was like, I know, no, I say, because my mother ain't outside waiting to rob you. That's how you know I ain't changed. She's like, well, okay, I believe you.